It remains a mystery in the racing world 20 years after the accident that claimed the life of the legendary Dale Earnhardt. What actually transpired at that awful moment? And who was truly at fault? Music. This is significant because, at the age of 67, the most attacked, Sterling Marlin, has finally spoken out. His remarks have the potential to alter our understanding of the worst day in NASCAR history. There is more to this story than loss. It also involves a quest to uncover the truth and put things right. Are you prepared to hear the response? The shocking truth is about to be revealed, so don't look away. On the fateful day of the race in February 2001, Daytona International Speedway was packed with thousands of enthusiastic spectators. The Florida sun was shining on the track. Every driver at the Daytona 500 aspired to leave their mark on the sport. It was not merely a race. For Dale Earnhardt, that day was more than just another race. He had the opportunity to defend his reputation and support his family, which included his friend Michael Waltrip and son Dale Earnhardt Jr. The image of Earnhardt speaking to his team prior to the race, his eyes focused on his goal, spoke volumes. In addition to being an excellent driver, he was a resolute team captain who prioritized the needs of the group at all times. "Today I want us to stand on top of the podium. This is a team sport," he said to them after the race. He was a hero, someone who never gave up when faced with difficulties. In the days leading up to the race, Earnhardt's team worked tirelessly to ensure that every aspect of the renowned No. 3 Chevrolet was flawless, from the powerful engine to the ideal tire system. Dale had everything he needed to speed and aim his way around the track with remarkable precision. The Daytona 500 held great significance for Dale Earnhardt. He eventually won there in 1998, after putting in 20 years of hard work every day. That moment will never be forgotten. When the 2001 season began, he had nothing to prove, but he couldn't avoid the scene of stories because he was passionate about racing and wanted to continue changing the world. That day, Daytona was not only thrilling, but there was also an unseen pressure. Dale was aware that tough drivers like Jeff Gordon and Sterling Marlin would stop at nothing to win. The race was about more than speed. It was a life and strength test. As the car's engines roared across the track, all eyes were on Dale Earnhardt. "We knew that if we wanted to beat Dale at Daytona, we had to get everything ready," someone else had said. He was certain he could make a difference, as evidenced by his eyes, which were obscured by the hood. However, Dale was unaware that this would be his final race. The worst accident in NASCAR history occurred on the track on February 18, 2001, at the Daytona 500, one of the year's most anticipated races. Dale Earnhardt, popularly known as the Intimidator, did more than just drive on the final lap of this race. He protected his team as well. He concentrated on ensuring the safety of his friend Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the final laps since they were leading the field. Every decision the drivers made as they raced to the finish line at speeds exceeding 300 km/h could mean the difference between life and death. Dale Earnhardt was in third place going into the final turn, right behind other vehicles and obstructing their path. Waltrip and Earnhardt Jr. were leading when Sterling Marlin's vehicle passed them from behind. Earnhardt's car and Marlin's car were involved in a minor collision in an instant. Earnhardt's car went off course and collided with Ken Schrader's car after just that small impact. Earnhardt's car crashed into the outside wall at Turn 4 after the two vehicles collided violently and created a hazardous angle. From the seats or on TV, it might not have seemed like much, but the crash was extremely severe, reaching speeds of over 160 mph, 257 km/h. A force nearly 80 times a person's weight was created by the impact. Earnhardt's car was nearly stopped when it struck the concrete wall. A fatal head injury resulted from the force, which was primarily applied to the front of the vehicle. Despite wearing the simplest safety equipment at the time and being buckled up, Earnhardt was unable to withstand the impact. He immediately died after breaking his head. The state of safety was not as good as it is today back then. Wearing head and neck safety equipment, such as the Hans, head and neck support system, was not yet mandatory. Unlike the more modern steel and foam barriers, the outside barriers along the track were composed of hard concrete and lacked any layers that would absorb shock. Despite appearing to be just another crash in a fast race, these factors made the collision extremely dangerous. Following the collision, Earnhardt's vehicle slid off the track and came to a stop. Ken Schrader, another accident victim, hurriedly exited his vehicle and approached Earnhardt. Schrader immediately noticed, however, that Earnhardt's injuries were far more severe than those he had ever seen in a crash. Numerous relief and medical teams arrived rapidly, but it was all in vain. The Daytona racetrack was rocked by the news that Dale Earnhardt had passed away shortly after. A few minutes ago, the stands were raucous and teeming with excitement, but now there was quiet. The death of NASCAR's most well-known driver, who was once regarded as unbeatable on the track, came as a shock to fans. However, a storm of disapproval began to build. The center of the storm was Sterling Marlin. For many, he was the direct cause of the tragedy and the closest witness. How did Marlin handle this rage in light of this? What actually took place that day? Let's begin this potentially troublesome story. Sterling Marlin never imagined how much his lengthy and prosperous racing career would be affected by Dale Earnhardt's passing. Marlin faced harsh criticism from the media and fans following the 2001 Daytona 500 accident. A NASCAR hero was also killed in the accident. He emerged as the key figure in the dispute over accountability and the safety of this risky sport. In the days following the accident, Sterling Marlin was the subject of numerous news reports. Even though NASCAR promptly declared the collision between Marlin and Earnhardt to be an accident, the headlines question, "Is Sterling Marlin responsible for the death of Dale Earnhardt?" did not ease public sentiment. Some of the fans were upset and depressed, so they blamed Marlin for everything. Despite being a well-respected and seasoned driver, Marlin found himself the target of intense criticism from all directions. He received numerous irate texts and letters, some of which contained threats of death. Reading these letters made him sad, but he knew that he wasn't the only target of the rage. For many, it served as a coping mechanism for their sorrow over a hero's passing. Although I took every precaution to avoid the collision, racing is a risky sport, and accidents like this do happen occasionally. Knowing that any words would further hurt the Earnhardt family, who had already suffered a great deal, Marlin chose to remain silent in the years following the accident, neither attempting to defend himself nor responding to the complaints. Choosing to remain silent, however, wasn't easy. The accident scene from that day kept replaying in Marlin's mind, and on some nights he couldn't sleep because he kept asking himself why he was so bad. Could I have done something different to stop that? Even though he was aware that he couldn't alter the past, the guilt persisted. Sterling Marlin wasn't the only person who had to cope with this pressure, though. "Sterling did nothing wrong," said Jeff Gordon and Ken Schrader, two of Dale Earnhardt's fiercest rivals, while other drivers and NASCAR officials defended him, claiming that no one was responsible for the accident. As time passed, Sterling Marlin continued to work quietly because he didn't want to hurt anyone or start another fight. Schrader even publicly defended Marlin, claiming that neither Marlin nor anyone else on the track that day was responsible for Earnhardt's death. "I didn't wish to cause the Earnhardts any harm." After 20 years of silence, Sterling Marlin finally opened up about one of the worst days in NASCAR history, the day Dale Earnhardt died. In a room with soft lighting and a picture of Earnhardt on the table, Marlin told the story he had kept hidden for many years in order to face the pain, criticism, and open questions. They had lost too much, he said. People who understood helped him keep his honor by making this decision, but it hurt him deeply and could only be healed over time. Racing fans will never forget the 2001 Daytona 500 crash that killed Dale Earnhardt. At the time, Sterling Marlin was the driver closest to Earnhardt, and a minor collision between his car and Earnhardt's set off a chain of horrific events. Shortly after, Marlin became the target of ire, with many NASCAR fans blaming him and believing he was the one who killed the Intimidator. Marlin chose to remain silent under intense pressure from the media, not to avoid accepting responsibility, but to avoid further hurting the Earnhardt family and those who loved Dale. He was very sad as he said, "I thought that if I spoke out, things might have gotten worse, so I chose to stay quiet and let time answer." However, the silence did not stop the nightmares he was having, as the accident kept replaying in his mind, making him wonder if there was anything he could have done differently to avoid the terrible outcome. On some nights, I remained up late. In reality, it was merely an accident, but I asked myself if there was anything I could have done differently. Even though it was wrong, Earnhardt's death forced NASCAR to make significant safety changes in the years that followed. "I never meant to hurt anyone, especially Dale," he said. When the official reports were released, it became evident what actually happened. Earnhardt's death was primarily caused by the absence of safety precautions, like the hands device and adequate barrier walls. Earnhardt was among the drivers who chose not to use the hands device at the time because it was uncomfortable. "Dale was a great driver and a wonderful person," Sterling Marlin said softly, breaking his silence not to defend himself, but out of respect for Earnhardt and his values. What kept Marlin going after everything? "Dale will always be a part of NASCAR, and I hope what we went through will make this sport better and safer," he responded. "No one can replace him." He also thanked his family, friends, and others who had supported him during the most trying time in his life. Marlin's confession not only ended a painful chapter in NASCAR's history, but it also demonstrated that even the worst accidents can have positive outcomes. That's the best way to remember him. Sterling Marlin sent a powerful message about strength, respect, and the lessons that can be learned from loss when he spoke out after more than 20 years. This is not only an accident story, it's also a tale of camaraderie, unity, and continuing a family's racing heritage. Dale Earnhardt, popularly known as the Intimidator, was a legendary race car driver who altered NASCAR's course. He significantly impacted the sport. In addition to his skill on the track, he turned NASCAR from a regional competition into an international spectacle. Earnhardt will be remembered as one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. He took home 7 titles and 76 races. Because he was courageous and didn't back down from taking chances or making daring moves. He was adored and respected by the public as a race car driver. Earnhardt changed NASCAR in addition to being a great driver. He gained a lot of supporters due to his charisma and bravery, which made the sport a major source of entertainment across the country. Because of him, NASCAR attracted a new fan base, and the iconic number 3 car was associated with the sport's explosive expansion in the 1990s. However, that awful day in February 2001 had the biggest influence on Earnhardt. Earnhardt was killed in an accident while defending his son and friends at the Daytona 500. His death shocked the world and demonstrated the dangers of the sport. NASCAR implemented numerous changes as a result of this tragedy, including improving the barriers, making the cars safer, and adding safety features like the hands device. Although Earnhardt's passing was a tragic loss, it sparked safety advancements that have prevented many fatalities. In addition to the racing achievements he left behind, his legacy endures in the sport today, thanks to the safety improvements that followed. Both his fans and racing history will never forget Dale Earnhardt as a courageous, innovative, and selfless individual. He will always be remembered as a legend. Millions of people still think about and miss Dale Earnhardt, even after his tragic death more than 20 years ago. In addition to being an excellent driver, he served as a strong role model for resilience, strength, and determination. His iconic smile and the number 3 car will live on in the memories of those who witnessed him race. They provide constant motivation. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Dale's son, continues his family name. He sees every race as a way to honor his father, not just a chance to win. Dale Jr. "Nothing is impossible if you don't give up," he once put it. He benefited from this lesson in both his personal and professional life. Although Dale Earnhardt's passing was a tragic loss, it also brought about significant safety improvements in NASCAR. Better barriers and the Hans device are just two of the safety advancements brought about by that awful day. Dale's efforts are greatly appreciated by many drivers today, such as Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, who might not be competing today if these changes hadn't taken place. Dale's impact extends beyond the track and technology. His admirers will never forget him thanks to tattoos of the number 3 and memorial services honoring his life. Sterling Marlin still remembers that awful day, but he chooses to honor Dale's memory by carrying on the sport they both loved. One fan remarked, "To me, he wasn't just a driver. He was a hero. I believe Dale would want me to carry on and keep the fire alive," he said. In addition to winning races, Dale Earnhardt was a true legend because he motivated others. Life is a race, and you don't always win. What matters is that you give it your all, he once said, and his words still hold true today. His spirit endures and serves as a constant reminder of the strength of hard work and desire. Sterling Marlin's final statement. At the age of 67, Marlin has finally discussed the horrific day that NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt passed away. In a calm, dimly lit room, Marlin discussed his thoughts on the accident and Earnhardt's enduring influence. Marlin reflected on his relationship with Earnhardt and how he viewed him as more than a bitter rival. He viewed him as a devoted father who served as an inspiration to an entire generation. "I can't change the past, but Dale's life was full of meaning," he stated. Marlin can still clearly recall Earnhardt's enduring drive and his well-known half-smile. "Dale taught us to love the sport with all of our hearts, live life to the fullest, and never stop giving." Marlin said, "Dale always gave his all." This struck close to home for Marlin as a driver and as a sports enthusiast. For NASCAR, Earnhardt's passing marked a sea change. It resulted in significant safety improvements like safer barriers and the Hans device. Earnhardt's sacrifice was horrible, but ultimately it saved lives, Marlin emphasized. "He changed NASCAR for good," Marlin said. Marlin thanked Earnhardt, saying, "Thank you for making me a better driver and a better person." He also advised fans to cherish each moment and not let sorrow overshadow the good times. And that's how he should be remembered. Earnhardt's photo is visible to Marlin from the Daytona racetrack. It serves as a reminder of his admiration and respect for the sport. "Live fully and race like today is your last," he advised them. That's how Dale would want us to live. NASCAR was greatly impacted by Earnhardt, and his legacy of bravery and transformation endures.